Hey, Journey, did you know that daddy's trans?
Daddy twins.
Did you know that daddy's trans?
Daddy twins.
Do you care?
Yeah.
You do? How much?
Yeah.
A lot?
What?
Did you know that daddy has a vagina?
Vagina?
Yes.
Oh. It has vagina?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. Good talk.
I obviously know what this trans guy was trying to do. He was trying to prove that my kid doesn't give a shit if I'm trans or not. He just cares that I'm here for him and that I love him. And why is everyone making it a big deal that I'm a trans guy with a kid? My issue is this literally comes across again as creepy. It's probably the first time this kid has ever even heard of the word vagina, has no idea what it means. I saw this on Twitter and I feel like it fit perfectly with the situation, so I wanted to share it with you. My friend casually, Greg, said, "Stop destroying the innocence of children in order to protect your own pathologies onto them." Perfectly said, Greg.
Ruining the trans acceptance by saying trans women can breastfeed, men can get periods, there are a million genders, men can give birth, trans women are the same as real women. That's only gonna make a lot of people close-minded when they used to be open-minded about LGBT. So while they're ruining the LGBT acceptance, I'm trying to make a difference here. And you may not like conservatives because they don't say nice things about us. I'm trying to change that.
Fühlst du dich jetzt?
Langsam, nur noch die Haare.
Reason why lesbians tend to be at the forefront of discussing this is because, as I said, there are now trans women, they say they're lesbians, but they also say that you're a lesbian, I'm a lesbian. Why aren't you interested in me? Are you transphobic? And just so everyone understands this, you need to think about it. We're lesbians in the original sense. Our sexual orientation excludes males. And there's a male telling us that they're a lesbian too, and that therefore, and that the only reason, of course they'll say things like, well, you've got a choice, of course you've got a personal choice. But if your reason is that I'm a male, then you're transphobic. Now that's not going to have any effect on me except extreme irritation, but it might have a big effect on a 17-year-old girl who's just discovered, that was just finding out about her sexuality. And it, in queer circles, that obscures all the social dynamics that can happen there, which are 100% structured around biological sex and in old ways, like males badgering females for sex, except now that they're women, it's
issues that trans people have had and continue to have. But I think people like Leah Thomas, people like Glenique here, they cause massive, bigger problems for the trans community. They make the whole thing look like a mockery. Yeah. They make a mockery of being trans. Yeah. And when you put your hand up as a 6'4" biological man and say, I am now competing against women in a swimming pool, no trans person who doesn't want that attention is doing anything other than saying, this is making my life hell. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, you're absolutely right in that the so-called activists are harming the group that they're claiming to advocate for, as well as harming 51% of the whole human population. Because let's be real, all of this stuff, all the negative downstream impacts are on girls and women. They are not on boys and men at all. I'd say this whole thing is incredibly misogynistic, and I don't like to throw that word around too much. To take the conversation up a level as well, I have a question, and the whole thing is, why are we trying to force people, and why are so many people entertaining the denial of reality itself? Yeah. Women's rights are incredibly important. Fairness in sports is important. Safety and security and privacy, all of these things are very important. The fundamental problem at the root of this is everyone dancing around pretending that a man can truly be a woman and a woman can truly be a man. This is not me being transphobic or hateful or being a bigot, anything like that. It's simply that reality exists. Biology is real.
And is that reality a legal one? Because in this country it is. It is a legal reality, Zubi, that you can change your gender.
You cannot change your biological sex. It's physically impossible.
I'm saying to you,
it is impossible
it's a legal reality that you can.
Can you change your biological sex?
We can talk about biology, and we can talk about the legality of it.
We're talking about biology, though. This thing is about sport. This is about males and females.
Well, the problem when we talk about biology is, neither of us are scientists, but
you don't need to be a scientist to know men and women.
You and I both know that it's a lot more complicated than that.
What's the complication?
It's not as simple as, for me, it's very simple. For you, it may be very simple. But I think we're indulging in ignorance by not suggesting that there is more to it than that.
Can you become male?
I don't want to be a male.
But can you become male? Is there anything that could be done that could turn you into a male in the way that I'm male and Piers is male? Is that possible?
See, now, do you see how you've qualified your question? So you first asked me, can I become a male? And I would suggest probably yes, in terms of medically. But then you said, like you and Piers, and that's where we start to get complicated.
Paula, I hoped we would have taken you a little further down your journey. I fear when you say you think you can become male, you can't, because male is a sex.
I can have gender recognition, can't I? I can legally become a male.
We've got to leave it there, but you can't actually become a biological male. And nor can I, you'll be relieved to hear, become a biological female. Because I'm quite tempted right now to start entering the cricket competition, right? And smashing female biological bowlers all over the place and feeling good about myself. Only I wouldn't. I'd feel ashamed. I think it's embarrassing.
I think you're pumping above your weight there.
Well, you wait till Usain Bolt.
Female cricketers.
As I say, wait till Usain Bolt goes, I'm identifying as a woman, and runs in the 100-metre final at the Olympics.
Boy, 4 years old in this case, paraded on camera in the female alter ego that his mother has imposed on him, and she's very proud of it. Let's listen to that.
To your face, Ty.
Makeup.
You put makeup on it?
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
7.
No, how old are you?
7.
You're 4.
No, it's 7.
Are you a boy or a girl?
A girl.
A girl?
Mm-hmm.
Were you born a girl? Were you born a girl?
Yes.
When you were a baby, were you a girl?
Yes.
Are you in a boy's body, though?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, tell TikTok bye.
Bye.
Yeah, who bought him that makeup? This is his choice, right? Who bought him the little pink dress there? Quite an interesting clip. Once you can get past the visceral revulsion, you notice the incoherent, arbitrary line the mother draws. She will respect the boy's self-identification, his alleged self-identification as a girl, but not his self-identification as 7 years old. And why not? Age is more fluid and changing than sex.
Everyone looked up to the U.S. and it was like goals to go visit there, vacation there, and visit the country. And now she goes back to Singapore and she's like, everyone's like, we're getting all this woke stuff from there. They're crazy. It's degraded. I don't want to be there. Their crime's out of control. Their cities are nasty. And I'm like,
yeah, we're not looking so strong on the world stage anymore.
Yeah, alas.
A very strange world, don't we? So have a watch of the clip, and then unfortunately we'll continue after that.
I just have to worry about things that children worry about.
So usually I'd make Phil something fresh, like a blended bacon sandwich. But it's hard when it's like this, so I'm just doing this for now. I actually enjoy running around after Phil. We've never had kids of our own, and we don't plan to. So it's kind of like being a parent, but without the pain of giving birth.
I personally think that age play adds a whole...
Talk about anything without hurting somebody's feelings. How can we have society? How can we discuss things? How can we be productive without being able to talk about things? If I can't talk about something with you, what is our relationship going to do? It's going to crumble. It's going to fall apart. Okay, it hurts my feelings. I shed a tear. All right, get back up. Try again tomorrow.
But I think people should be able to talk about it. You should talk about it. That's the only way you find middle ground, because
exactly,
if you don't talk about it, it's either your way or my way.
Birth is not a woman's greatest strength. I do think that only biological women are capable of going through that process and bringing life into the world.
I need to push back on that because we're also forgetting that trans men and trans masculine people can also give birth as well. And I don't think it's fair to just set it on one group that says that just biological women have that power to just give birth. And we have to be very clear when we look at the nuances of birth.
I recognize that there are people who have different identities. There are biological women who identify as men and then go on to give birth. I would argue, however, that those people are still biological women. And I know that is something that can offend many, but that stands as my belief.
So the correct term is actually cisgendered woman. Cis means same. It means that you identify with the birth that you were assigned. And so, I just really, really wish that we would kind of be a little bit more mutable to the terminology, because I think that's what really is going to open up that dialogue and that discussion.
If I may, I think the crux of the conversation kind of comes back to, are trans women women? And I think if we don't agree there, it's going to be very difficult to kind of keep the conversation going or even agree on the points that you guys are talking about, because if we don't believe that trans women are women, then the conversation kind of ends there in terms of whether they're like men can give birth or not.
And me as a Black trans woman should not be a threat to you. And what I see from a lot of cisgender women is they're trying to deem what womanhood is supposed to look like. I have my own perspective of womanhood. We can coexist in the same world, but the reality is we get so stuck on parts. Having a vagina is not the only thing that makes you a woman. I'm sorry. It takes integrity, it takes courage, it takes lifting other women up. It takes those things to begin to defy womanhood, and there's so many other different things.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so if I were a white person and I said Blackness is about integrity and courage and kind of the same thing that you used to define womanhood, and then I said I want to transition into a Black person and I'm white. And I'm redefining what Blackness is to fit what I view it as, right? There's no objective reality of what Blackness is. Would you consider that appropriation, or do you think that's something I should be allowed to do?
I consider that dodging, and I consider that comparing apples to oranges, because race and gender identity are two separate different things. Because when we look at race, we have to look at many, many different structures of what whiteness and white supremacy looks like, and how white supremacy can be manipulated into other things. And what happens is the closer you are in proximity to whiteness, you're able to weaponize it against other people. It reminds me a lot of Rachel.
I want to go walk down the street, and I want everybody that sees me, that I see looking at me, to smile at me, wave at me, be nice to me, know automatically what I should be called, and I need to be able to leave my house at 8 a.m. and come back home at 8 p.m. without any interaction that's going to make me feel unhappy. That's bogus.
That's delusion.
It's not going to happen. It's delusion, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And while I am a person that believes in respecting everyone as best as possible, I mean, you can't...
I can't respect you if you're trying to force something on me.
You can't do the same thing with everyone, but I believe in respect. I believe in if someone's in your face and is asking you something, that's fair. But when it comes to the point of just straight disrespectful lies or aggression or canceling or trying to force someone to do something, it changes how I view whatever movement this is.
It's true that the culture has increasingly made it difficult for both men and women to form and maintain strong, intact, lasting families. And that's because the elites who run our society don't want you to live that kind of life. They prefer that you focus on your individual wants, on fulfilling your own needs and satisfying your own desires. That's what they prefer for you. That's the life they want for you. A self-focused life is precisely the sort of life they wish for you. Makes you easier to manipulate, less of a threat to their agenda. Not really a threat at all. I mean, if you're just out there focused on yourself, being a consumer, buying lots of things for yourself, consuming things for yourself, and all the rest of it, you're not a threat to their agenda at all. I mean, you're going along with it.
It's been a difficult journey for me. I would say it was easier to be trans 10 years ago. The last 10 years, with what has become the kind of the sex v gender debate and the kind of this shift generationally into the social media age of trans.
Would you say, and I don't want to mischaracterize this, statistically I would say this is true, but would you say that Generation Z is probably or arguably the most open-minded generation as it relates to these gender issues?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you combine that with the fact that your generation still has more mental health issues than all that have come before it, how do you juxtapose that and say it's because of mistreatment? It's the most tolerant generation of all time, and they have more mental health issues than, for example, men coming back from World War II.
I think that's actually a great question.
Teachers exposing themselves and making videos on TikTok, for example, talking about how they're coming out to students and then students are coming out to them. And then they're keeping that information from the parents.
I would rather lose my job than out one of my students to their families.
They don't care about the parental rights at all, but if your child is questioning their gender identity, for example, then the teacher thinks that they have the right to keep that information from the parent. That's an issue, especially since that could mean that the child is suffering from a mental disorder, gender dysphoria, if they're talking about not feeling comfortable with their gender identity.
Never tell parents, period. Even if someone told me I couldn't do that and I couldn't call them whatever they want or the pronouns they want without parent permission, I would still do it.
But apparently the relationship between the child and the teacher is much closer, so they have a right to know that Sally is actually Sam for 8 hours a day, but the parents don't have to be informed.
That the gender binary was f***ing easy. These are not my preferred pronouns. These are my pronouns. You will use them, or you will not refer to me. At all. If you misgender me by mistake, fix it and move on. I don't need your elaborate apology. I don't care how many times you say sorry. Just don't do it again. Moreover, if someone else misgenders me, it is never your job to tell them that it's okay. 'Cause it isn't. I get it. The discussion of the gender spectrum confuses you, and that's fine. But if you don't know anything about it, don't fucking speak on it.
There are non-binary people. There are trans men who lactate. There are those who go by he, him, different pronouns. It's just inclusive to everybody. It is not hurting cis women to say chest feeding, but it does hurt those who go by other pronouns to continue to say breastfeeding, especially if they have body dysmorphia.
What's something you own that you don't ever plan on using?
My uterus. Because and I mean this with all disrespect, them kids.
Cupiosexual people may decide to have a sexual relationship despite not feeling sexual attraction while others don't. Both are completely valid and communication is key.
What are your preferred pronouns?
Yeah, my name is Danny. I'm a non-binary birther. For those of you who don't know, I gave birth to my child 20 months ago at home. It was beautiful. It was a spiritual experience. Congratulations. Thank you. I did it as a non-binary person, not as a woman, just to be very clear.
That only female humans actually give birth.
There's a difference between
gender identity is separate from being bodily, functionally a female person.
But what happens to all the people who don't identify as female, though? Like myself, I am not female. What about the people who are born
you can't give birth without being female.
Without female reproductive organs.
You're a female person with a gender identity that is male.
I'm a non-binary person with a uterus, is what I am.
Yes.
Feminism used to be about the equality of sexes, that men and women were equal and should have the same equal opportunities. And now what feminism has become is white liberal women uplifting biological men who want to identify as women and yelling and screaming at biological women who do not agree or subscribe to that ideology. That is feminism today, uplifting the patriarchy. Congratulations, women. You're erasing yourselves.
History has been made.
This transgender weightlifter competed in the Olympics. Transgender women, people born male but who identify as female, are winning many competitions,
dominating the state's girls' track meets.
Some women are upset about that.
Why do I have to compete against a male body?
Leah Schneeberger is a mountain bike racer. She won this race 3 years in a row. But then a former men's cyclist transitioned and competed as a woman. Now that person wins.
How did this happen?
It's going to be Telfer.
After Cece Telfer won this race, she said,
"As a trans athlete, I'm not a threat to women's sports because I am a woman."
But Telfer ranked 390th best competing as a man.
I have to admit, I am somewhat at a loss to explain it.
But what about combat sports?
Fox to the knees, and that's it.
Trans woman Fallon Fox won most of her fights. She broke this woman's orbital bone. Later she said, "I've never felt the strength as I did that night." Doesn't seem fair. But most stay silent.
Because every time we try to voice it, we get told to be quiet.
I don't get this being silent stuff. I would think if you feel you're being treated unfairly, you'd speak up.
They are being told they need to stay silent or else they're going to lose their spot on a team. They're going to lose sponsorship opportunities. They're going to be called a bigot.
Currently, most states, supported by the Biden administration, allow trans students to compete even without hormone therapy.
Women athletes cannot speak up because when they speak up about this issue, they get canceled immediately. They lose their scholarships, they lose their...
I am not saying that if you're going through any type of, illness and that is altering your body in some way, that is fat phobic. I'm saying when you are intentionally exercising to lose weight, altering your diet to lose weight, doing any activity intentionally to lose weight is fat phobic.
You're a demented hoe. That's so crazy. Like, sometimes I wonder, how the shit that comes out of your mouth, anyone who says this kind of shit, how does that come out of your mouth and you don't no, it's bullshit? How do you convince yourself to sit up here on the internet.com and say working out or having a diet is fat phobic? First of all,
A place for young people to go where they can expand their critical thinking skills, explore different cultures, grow as a human being, enter adulthood preparing for the future to be productive members of society, where their degrees matter and where they can truly flourish as they stimulate their minds and evolve into better people than how they came. Not anymore.
No interest in that. We are going to have a real conversation. The treatment for an ectopic pregnancy.
If I'd suppress my hormones, you don't magically turn into a woman. If Anthony Joshua, the boxer, if LeBron James goes on, starts taking estrogen and suppressing his testosterone for a year or two, you think he's suddenly gonna be on an equal footing? It's completely insane. It's preposterous.
The muscle bulk's already there. It's there.
It's laughable. They're putting males in female prisons.
Yeah, well, that is really...
Women are getting pregnant in prison all of a sudden, and they're like, how is this happening?
Yeah.
I mean, is that sustainable? It's you can't hide from the truth in such a ridiculous fashion. At some point, the rubber meets the road, the chickens come home to roost, and people stand up and push back. And the thing that's taking long is just the fact that people lack courage. That's all it is.
So on the first day of taking office, President Biden signed Executive Order 13988, preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation. He ordered all federal agencies to look into their policies that relate to sex and to redefine all of their policies so that sex is redefined to include gender identity, which makes sex a meaningless concept in federal administrative law. The implications of that for housing and urban development are that it's impossible to have a female-only domestic violence shelter in the U.S. anymore. If a man wants to enter a federally funded domestic violence shelter and the shelter wants to exclude him on the basis that he's male, he can complain that he has a female gender identity and that the shelter is discriminating. FBI's way of recording and reporting crime statistics by sex. And it shows, unsurprisingly, which it has shown for the past several decades since it's been doing the program, I think it started in the 1930s, that men overwhelmingly commit most violent and sex crimes. It's usually something like men commit about 87% of murders, and somewhere around there for aggravated assaults, men commit something like 95 to 98% of rapes. And we can only know that because the FBI records it that way based on data that it gets from local law enforcement agencies. We cannot talk about male violence against women if we cannot talk about who are the male people and who are the female people.
And that brings me to my next point, which is feminism. Modern day feminists say that trans women should be included in feminism. And if you believe that they should be excluded, you are therefore a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist. Well, for what I'm about to say, you may say that I'm a TERF, but joke's on you because I'm not even a feminist. We differentiate ourselves from animals. These are words that we use for humans. So for example, you can have a cat that is a male and you can have a cat that is a female, but you do not refer to your cat as a woman or a man because it is a cat. Man and woman are words that we use to describe humans that have reached a certain age and a certain level of biological and sexual maturation. That's why when we are born and we come into this world, we are called boys and girls because we are not sexually mature, we have not biologically matured, but as you grow up, you become a man or a woman. Gender is not a social construct. Gender expression is a social construct, and gender expression, yes, does exist on a spectrum. But if you are a girl who is a tomboy and you like to do things that are considered masculine, that doesn't mean you're a boy. And if you are a boy who likes to do feminine things like play with Barbies, that doesn't mean you are a girl. That is just a form of gender expression, and it is okay to have interests and behaviors that is atypical to your gender. That is a spectrum. Gender expression is a spectrum. I agree with it. I accept it. But gender itself is an immutable characteristic, and there's only two sexes. There's only two ways you can come into this earth. There's only two types of genitalia that exist. Some people are intersex. That is an exception to the rule. Stop changing shit. If trans people and trans activists want allyship from people who are outside of the community, erasing women is not the way to do it. All it is doing is causing further division. Labeling people bigots who disagree with you is not a way to gain allyship. It's a way to cause division. Forcing your ideology onto people who just want to coexist peacefully and do not want to participate in your ideology is not a way to create allyship. It is simply a way to create division. Most people did not have strong opinions about the trans community until all of these things started being forced on us. And what happened to liberals supporting autonomy? Right now, there is a bill that's being voted on in the US that is going to allow schools and teachers to hide the gender identity of a child from their parents. So if little Susan at home is a girl but goes to school and becomes Bobby Boy, the parents have no right to know underneath this bill that is being voted on next month. This radical gender ideology has gone way too far. The erasure of women, the pushing the ideology onto children, all of it is just way too much. It's too much. And I really hope that more people become brave enough to push back, because I know that there are more people. I see you all in the comment section. Some of you have messaged me on Instagram. I know that there are people who don't like what's going on. They don't support it. But a lot of people are afraid to stand up. And I get it. Not everybody wants to be publicly advocating for their political positions, because you don't
important to hold on to this definition of biological
I could offer
feminine.
something.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking you.
So
why does it matter?
Dr. Phil in earlier was talking about how the women's movement has achieved certain objectives. Women have had to fight for our rights for thousands of years all over the world and for hundreds of years in this country, because we have been discriminated against and excluded from public civil society, from the educational arena, from the legal arena, from numerous arenas on the basis of sex. And many of us who support those movements are not about to turn around and pretend that sex is not a meaningful legal and physical category.
But anyway, go ahead and keep showing the video.
Oh, I put it up here.
The baby has been able to latch, but I've not been able to produce any milk. It's okay, because we're gonna supplement the feeding with formula so that my baby's still getting the nutrients that they need.
All right, hold on. Hey, we got to comment on this. Now, that's a biological male trying to live his life as a female. Yeah. And she's trying to breastfeed this little baby.
We call her she because that's our pronouns.
Yeah.
Be realistic. Why can't we say that, hey, you know what, grown men on estrogen that are beating up lesbians, there might be a problem there that we need to talk about, instead of thinking, oh my God, we don't want to offend this man, and tell him that he's a man and actually call him a man. So what in the hell are we doing? While I'm urinating in the middle of London because of a bottom surgery that's completely and totally experimental, I get, infections every 6 weeks. I probably won't live past 10 years. I won't see my grandkids. And you know what? We want to make sure that trans men, believe that they're women. And then we got righteous gay people like this finally starting to come up. Thank God. Find your voices for these children.
So you're talking about the potential complications. You've experienced all sorts of complications as a result
I've
of
had
surgery.
a pulmonary embolism. I'm on blood thinners. I have congestive heart failure. I have lung damage. I have an arm. Where do you want to go with this? These kids are getting early onset osteoporosis. They're getting, they can't have kids. I have a video on my phone right now. This kid started at 11 years old taking puberty blockers. He's 19, asking me if he's a mutant. He knows that he ruined his body, but who is he? He's a man, but I was a woman, but I destroyed my body. And then here, all we're doing is we want to make sure that women.
And yet you started much later, and these kids are,
These kids don't have a chance.
Yeah.
Parents' Day. Take a listen.
Okay, so Mother's Day is tomorrow, and this is the second day that's rolled around. There's 2 different days in the year that I question. There's Mother's Day and there's Father's Day. As a trans person, as a trans woman, which one do I celebrate? Father's Day rolled around, I don't feel like a father. Mother's Day is tomorrow, I feel like a mom, but who celebrates me? It's not a situation of pity me or anything. I just genuinely want to know, is there other people out there that you don't know which one you fall under? Are you a mom? Are you a dad? Where's Parents' Day? Why can't we just have a Parents' Day? Like, you're a parent, that's worth celebrating. Why does it have to be one or the other? It actually bothers me a lot, and I didn't think about that till today. And
hey guys, I'm in the women's restroom.
An adult baby is somebody who enjoys dressing up and acting like a baby, and it could be as young as, you want to be a 6-month-old, or you can go up to 2 or 3 years old. It's whatever that feels right for you.
And those emojis honestly should be illegal. I've been emailing Apple every single day to remove the meat emojis from the iPhones, and they're not doing it. I don't know why they're not doing it. I've been emailing them every single day to stop putting the meat emojis in the phones. Like, it should be illegal. It's offensive to me, and it's triggering to people like me who are vegan. It is so triggering, and I don't know why they don't take them off the iPhone, because they're so triggering. They are so triggering.
Baby is gay. Yeah, this is him. He's gay. I called up my dad and I said, hey, guess what? Your grandson, gay.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm non-binary, gender fluid, right? However, I'm not always like trans, like I'm not always like I am trans, but sometimes I am like I am trans. So sometimes I'm literally trans and sometimes I'm literally not. I'm always non-binary. Sometimes I'll be sitting here and being like, well, I haven't felt masculine in a really long time, or I haven't felt like a pretty boy in a long time, or like, I just don't want anybody to perceive me as any kind of gender. Sometimes I am a pretty little boy. I'm a femme little princess, and I love that. I'm all of it all at once and none of it.
Hi, welcome. I'm your new therapist.
Teachers exposing themselves and making videos on TikTok, for example, talking about how they're coming out to students and then students are coming out to them. And then they're keeping that information from the parents.
I would rather lose my job than out one of my students to their families.
They don't care about the parental rights at all, but if your child is questioning their gender identity, for example, then the teacher thinks that they have the right to keep that information from the parent. That's an issue, especially since that could mean that the child is suffering from a mental disorder, gender dysphoria, if they're talking about not feeling comfortable with their gender identity.
Never tell parents, period. Even if someone told me I couldn't do that and I couldn't call them whatever they want or the pronouns they want without parent permission, I would still do it.
But apparently the relationship between the child and the teacher is much closer, so they have a right to know that Sally is actually Sam for 8 hours a day, but the parents don't have to be informed. Now we have teachers.
It makes me feel about this big.
Yeah, that's how they feel when you misgender them. So now you know the feeling. Just get it right, and you won't have to get sprayed.
Yeah, so here's what's going on. She is misgendering our partners, like my partner, my spouse, and then my sister's partner as well. Yeah, and she's known them for years and years. So we tried telling her nicely, and now we're balance training.
They are spraying their mom with water because she is misgendering their partner. So we need to look at a picture of this mom. She's wearing like a pride shirt. I don't think that this woman has any malintent. She's probably just confused. And you're spraying her like you're training a dog. Somebody said, you know what? She raised two like that, the same arrogance and delirium. Maybe a little wake up water in the face is in order. I mean, I guess, but also it's just sad that these are your children and that's how they're choosing to treat you.
To spray me. It makes me feel about this.
You have to give me a month.
No, I don't, because you haven't paid one brown penny.
I'm not obligated to, and I can't afford to.
Guess what? Doesn't matter.
You can't just tell me I have 2 weeks to find somewhere!
You've had over a month. And
no, I haven't!
Look, you have done nothing but dig your heels in and try and make me feel bad about your...
No, I haven't! I've been trying to educate you!
No, your education is brainwashing.
No, it's not!
One of my favorite parts of this video is when the mom is like, you don't do anything but fight with me, and she responds by going, I'm trying to educate you! And the mom's like, no, it's not education, that's just brainwashing.
My kids can't get a tattoo or plastic surgery. They're kids. They need guidance. They need boundaries. All of this conversation and talk about allowing children to have body autonomy and rights over their own body, it needs to stop. That goes down a very dark path very fast. If you're saying that a child can consent to having a double mastectomy and to sterilize themselves, what else are you saying they can consent to? Where is that line drawn? The people advocating against child-affirming care are doing so because we are physically and chemically altering children. And these same people understand that that child may change their mind, and that may is important when taking into account how drastic some of this affirming care can be. Screaming that men shouldn't be making laws about women's bodies, at the same time saying men can be women and women can be men. Okay, so does that mean that everyone's opinion is equal and valid? And if not, are you saying that men and women are different? What is it? And to think that we're pushing all of this on children when grown adults can't define it and get lost by it and don't even know what's going on themselves. I truly feel like the community just shot itself in the foot. Transgender is now just a catch-all term. It's a huge umbrella term, and we can't defend something like that. Nor can we push it on children. What's next? There's no middle ground when it comes to children. We need to leave the children alone. This is common knowledge, even in jails. If you go to prison because you did something wrong involving a child, you might not have a chance of seeing daylight in prison. Because we know that children are off limits. We know that they are a precious being that needs to be protected. Assaulting people you disagree with has got to stop. Manipulating and chemically altering children has got to stop. I urge all of you to just pause. And if you're in favor of trans children, really sit here and think, what are you in favor for and why? Are you really okay and think that a child is saying, yep, they know what they want. That little girl knows that she never wants to have a kid again. That little girl knows that she never wants to have breasts. Why are we calling these shots for children? They need to grow up and make that decision for themselves as a legal adult. If you're a grown consenting adult in America, you do you, that's fine. But it's the children that we need to leave alone.
The most transphobic people that I've encountered, both online and off, have been cis women. I see so many videos of cis women talking about how they're essentially tired of sharing the space of womanhood with trans people.
As they should. They are women. They're not cis women. They are women. Don't try to destroy and change the definitions of someone else's identity just so that you can make sense of yours. You are a trans woman.
Because trans people are calling themselves women without having the same experiences that they have had. If trans women bother you in that way, you're being transphobic. There's no other way around it.
No, not everything is transphobic. We're not transphobic for pointing out the truth for what it is. It is just extremely frustrating to be a part of a society where everything is racist, homophobic, transphobic, because we're destructing language. It is sad. And that's another video that I'm working on that's coming out about how we're destroying language and what words mean, because this person is saying it's transphobic. Well, no, you created that to be transphobic, because the definition of a woman did not always include identity until we changed the definition of woman to include someone who identifies as one. That did not used to be there. So you're literally changing definitions and altering what it means so that you can come back and scream and say what you want to say. We cannot function in a society like this. We genuinely cannot. It is not transphobic to point out that only women can have children.
Okay, re-upload, because everybody is looking for literally any reason to pretend that they're not transphobic. So let me just really break it down for you, okay? Here is a hypothetical situation. You meet a person who is the gender that you are romantically and sexually attracted to, okay? And you are attracted to them in every possible way. Emotionally, mentally, physically. You are attracted to this person. You really like them, right? You get on with them so to yourself, wow, this person is perfect. I never thought that I would meet a person like this. They told you, you would never know. There is no sign.
There's no such thing as completely transitioned. You can get the best doctor in the world, the best doctor in the world. But that does not mean that you will have a vagina or you will have a penis. And this again goes into why I talk about, I'm so excited for this video, why the LGB is different from the TQ+, because the LGB is rooted in science and biology. People who like penises or vagina or both. And then you have the TQ+, which is all identity. I don't care if you identify as a woman. If you do not have a vagina, you are not a woman. There is no such thing as a completely transition. You got me twisted.
Only reason is because they are trans. That's transphobic.
No, that's called being real and based in reality and biology. I don't care if you're a trans man and you're saying you're a man. If you do not have a penis, then I do not want you, because I am a gay man. Did we all forget that gays are terrified of vaginas? Did we forget that lesbian like holes, not poles? And there was a story about this lesbian dating app that is kicking off lesbians because they're transphobic for not wanting to date a trans woman. I'm sorry, the entire point of being a lesbian is a woman who likes a woman. A person who has a vagina who likes another person with a vagina. Not a makeshift one, not a sewn up one, not someone that's created in a lab on the operating table, a born one, a natural one. That's not transphobic. It's called being a lesbian. I'm not transphobic for not wanting to be with a trans man. It's called being gay. This is what I was talking about with the trans community, changing definitions and changing language so much we're all confused. We all don't understand it. What the hell?
I think the really crappy thing about having a period every month is that, like, I have to experience all of this pain, all this discomfort, and I don't even get the joy or the ability to bear children. Like, such horseshit. Especially this month, because the cramps have been really, really bad. Debilitating, even more so than usual. And it's just like, you know, at least give me the ability to have a baby, or just like take this away. Like,
it's genuinely sad. It is sad that we've gotten here to this point where there are born men with balls and a penis that feel as though they say, yes, in my mind, I am a woman. And they have psyched themselves out so much to where they genuinely think that they have periods. This is happening so much, and it is rising. The amount of men.
What I go by as a non-binary person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, you've never seen me like this.
I could see this being a conversation you have with a friend or your family or something. You put this on TikTok, and I go, I guess TikTok is the family and friend now. Kind of sad where you don't just keep your private stuff. It's odd to put on TikTok to me. This is a unique approach here.
This is what conquering your fears looks like.
Is it?
I want to run so bad. And I've been afraid. Like, I never leave the house without makeup, ever. I like wearing makeup. I love it.
Would the makeup make a difference to the person? If you saw the human here with makeup, would you go, there's a difference in the look? I'm talking like a POW for a reason, don't understand the terms of service here. I am the target of the terms.
But I know that, I can't wear makeup. I can't have my hair done. And I need a shower after. Like, who in their right mind would put on makeup for an hour and do their hair to go running just to have to take a shower again? This is what fear looks like. This is what conquering your fears look like. I got up this morning, I pushed myself so hard.
Wow, so not wearing makeup's conquering your fears? I mean, I'm really confused. Is there something else here? You see the persons, of course, stunning and brave. You say, so I pushed myself so hard, I conquered my fears, they didn't wear makeup. Now, if they wore makeup, would they look radically different? Makeup just kind of accentuates, softens up features often. Okay.
So I could run again.
Right.
I did shitty. I don't know. Watch this. I can't see him.
I love drama like the next guy, but we got to move on.
Guys, I messed up. I messed up.
Oh.
So I had a kid on Monday. They said their pronouns were she, her. Then on Wednesday, yesterday, they came to me and they said, you know what? My pronouns are they, them. I want you in the class to use they, them. Okay, cool, great.
That's confusing. So if I came to the teacher and said my name is Zach, and then the next day I said it's Jackie, and then said call me JT, would that be acceptable? Would that work in a normal classroom? The answer is no. But I guess you can change your pronouns every other day. And the teacher in this case feels bad they didn't get them right. Somehow this makes sense in education. This makes kids smarter, right?
They come to class today. There's names on desks in groups for assigned seats.
Right.
They can't find theirs because I guess my first class knocked it off. So I go to the class. Hey, is she in anyone's group? Does anyone see her name? It took me 5 minutes to realize what I did.
So if this teacher can't get it right, and they're all about it, like they feel bad they got the pronouns wrong, how could anybody expect me to get it right, ever, remotely? I'm not engaged with this. If I see the person on the screen, I think DNA woman is what I think. I wouldn't think any other pronouns. The first thing come out of my mouth would be ma'am. I was interacting for some God only knows reason. That's what would happen, right? To the normal people in the audience here.
Instead of having folks share their pronouns only at the first meeting of a new group or team, have them do it at every subsequent meeting.
Now, this human's interesting because I remember, say, a year ago, seeing they, them, whatever the pronouns are, TikTok, and they looked kind of like a DNA man. And I've seen they've put on a lot of weight in this stunning and brave transition. If you look back at their TikTok, it's interesting. Let's just call it.
Sometimes pronouns change, and when you make it a regular practice, it makes it easier for the person to announce that change. Particularly if you're working with queer youth who may be questioning or mid-transition, they might be trying out a few sets of pronouns along the way. It's also likely that you'll have guests at your group, and so it's a way for them to share theirs and know everyone else's.
Must be mental anguish trying out new pronouns every day. You're not happy with, like in my case, he, like zer, they, like trying on new pronouns every day. Seems like there might be something else, like seek medical attention if you're trying new pronouns every day. I would, like if I had a child, and they said my pronouns changed every day, you're like, whoa, 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 wait a second here. You're thinking about pronouns that much? It would be concerning as a parent of two, humans beings.
By making this a ritual in your team or group, you're increasing the likelihood that other people will go do the same in other groups. There is no smoking on board any Delta flight, and there's also no mandatory pronoun sharing. If someone doesn't feel comfortable, don't pressure them. At the same time, by making it part of your regular practice, you're increasing the likelihood folks will feel safe to share theirs.
Dear cisgendered women who like to use the argument that...
It's got a unique look, a rabble-rouser, I'll call it. This one just stirs it up every which way. Race, now jumping on the trans grift. So everybody, so cisgender equals normal women, just so we understand. So if you're just a woman, right, run of the mill, 3 years ago, that you'd just be called a woman. Now this person's going to tell you how you're bad and you should confess your sins, and it'll never be enough, of course.
Trans women are mocking and making fun of womanhood and cisgendered women in order to justify your hatred, ignorance, and transphobia. I need you to come to the front. I've got something to say to you.
So if you're ignorant, that means you don't know information, right? You're not aware of information. So this person's going to teach you how to not be ignorant. They're going to put in your head the knowledge so you can be a better person. You think that's true? You think they're going to help you at all? They're going to be nice to you, like you, be your friend? Absolutely not.
Honey, you ain't mad at trans women. And you actually don't think that trans women are making a mockery of womanhood or you as a woman.
What if they think that, though? What if a cisgender woman, I hate even saying that, but let's just go along with me here, thinks that? They think what just was described. But this person's saying they don't think that. They're going to get your ignorance out of your brain. They're going to re-educate you.
What you're mad at, who you're mad at, is men. You're mad at men for making a mockery of you and your...
Now that's confusing. So she's saying you're mad at men. You're not mad at trans women. Do you see what was just said there? Can you make sense of that? I'm not allowed to say anything, of course. Like a prisoner of war trying to communicate with you with eyeballs and blinking and, you know.
Womanhood. You're mad at men for making fun of you and womanhood as a whole. No. That's who you're mad at. But you are not empowered enough to take it out on men. You are not strong enough to take it out on men.
So commenting about a trans stunning a brave woman is really about men. Do you follow me? Do you see the irony here? I'm having a hard time expressing myself the right way. This is entertaining. I don't know if she watched her video back before she posted it, because it's very interesting.
So you've targeted trans women because that's
targeted.
Easy.
Okay.
Trans women are out here trying their best to live their best life just like you. Trans women are under attack constantly just like you.
Let's say I was sitting down with this person. I said, what? They're under attack. Can you give me more details or expand on that topic? They would say, well, there's these new laws, say in Idaho, Utah. I say, well, those are about kids, right? They're children, not adults, not women, trans women, but the children. That wouldn't work. Of course not. It's not supposed to make sense, but it's very interesting.
Trans women are made fun of, are objectified, are used by cisgendered men just like you. You're not mad at trans women. It's just easier. It makes you feel powerful to...
What if they are mad? Then what? You've got to be re-educated because you're ignorant? Say they just don't like it. They're like, I was fine 3 years ago, but now with all the moving parts we see, the Stunning and Brave drag queen story hours, the drag shows, the whole thing, the bathroom issues. What if you just don't like it and you're a woman? You just have to re-educate yourself. Say you're leftist too. You're like, well, they went too far. This one's saying, no. You're just a phobe. You're a bad person. And so re-educate yourself, right?
Attack people who have less of a social societal value than you. It makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel like you're on the other side of the equation. You're not mad at them. You're mad at men. You're mad at men who put on costumes and make fun of the auntie, of the mama, of the great mother, the great grandmother archetype.
I am so confused. What she just described would be who she's representing and propping up. Go back and listen to that. Of course, I can't communicate in adult fashion. That's why I'm demanding you go to the links below and follow me there. But this is confusing. And I don't know. I mean, the whole thing's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to make, sir, I'm sorry. And then they want you're sorry again. It's a malice struggle session. If you don't know what that is, Google it.
You're mad
the clitoris becomes hard. After a bit, a person's penis becomes erect, stiff, and larger.
Pastor.
Sometimes a bit of clear fluid that may contain a few sperm comes out of the tip of the penis and makes it wet.
Did I offend you?
Sir, I'm sorry.
Was it something I said?
Was it something I said?
Was it something I said? If you don't want to hear it in a school board meeting, why should children be able to check it out of the school system? See, we have perverts that are perverting our kids. And you all sit back smug in your chairs and celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you don't want me to read it so you can hear it. Why? Does it bother you? Yes or no? You can't answer that question. You want to know?
But they not gonna answer it. They not gonna. They stupid ass is not gonna answer. They're gonna just sit there with their fingers up their ass while you spitting all these facts. We know facts don't matter. Common sense don't matter. Common sense is demonized. Facts is demonized. Children's safety is demonized. Right? You want to do the weirdest shit. That's what we applaud today, man. These fucking idiots up here allowing this shit, bro. Don't shut the priest up from reading this shit that the kids got access to. Kids can read it, but he can't read it to y'all. What sense does that make? What sense does that make?
Why? Does it bother you? Yes or no? You can't answer that question. You want to know why? Because politically speaking, you can't say that it's wrong.
Bars.
You probably are a Christian man. But many Christians today have become more Democrat than Christian. Some Republicans have become more Republican than Christian. I'm not trying to win an election. I don't get my talking points from the RNC or the DNC. I get my talking points from the Bible, from the Bible.
Possible to be wrong. We went to the University of Washington to find out.
Are you aware of the debate happening in Washington State around the ability to access bathrooms, locker rooms, spas based on gender identity and gender expression?
I think people should be able to have access to the facility.
I think bathrooms could and potentially should be gender neutral because there doesn't need to be a classification for differences.
I think people definitely should have the ability to go into whichever locker room they want.
I feel like at least public universities should do their best to accommodate for those who do not have a specific gender identity.
You know, whether you identify as male or female and whether your sex at birth is matching to that, you should be able to utilize the resources.
So if I told you that I was a woman, what would your response be?
Good for you. Okay. Like, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I'll be like, what? Really?
I don't have a problem with it.
I'd ask you how you came to that conclusion.
If I told you that I was Chinese, what would your response be?
I mean, I might be a little surprised, but I would say, good for you. Like, yeah, be who you are.
I would maybe think you had some Chinese ancestor.
I would ask you how you similarly came to that conclusion and why you came to that conclusion.
I would have a lot of questions just because on the outside I would assume that you're a white man.
If I told you that I was 7 years old, what would your response be?
I wouldn't believe that immediately.
I probably wouldn't believe it, but I mean, it wouldn't really bother me that much to go out of my way and tell you, no, you're wrong. I'd just be like, oh, okay, he wants to say he's 7 years old.
If you feel 7 at heart, then then so be it. Yeah, good for you.
So if I wanted to enroll in a first grade class, do you think I should be allowed to?
Probably not, I guess. I mean, unless you haven't completed first grade up to this point and for some reason need to do that now.
If that's where you feel like mentally you should be, then I feel like there are communities that would accept you for that.
I would say so long as you're not hindering society and you're not causing harm to other people, I feel like that should be an okay thing.
If I told you I'm 6 feet 5 inches, what would you say?
That I would question.
Why?
Because you're not. No, I don't think you're 6'5".
If you truly believed you're 6'5", I don't think it's harmful. I think it's fine if you believe that. It doesn't matter to me if you think you're taller than you are.
So you'd be willing to tell me I'm wrong?
I wouldn't tell you you're wrong.
No, but I say that I don't think that you are.
I feel like that's not my place. as like another human to say someone is wrong or to draw lines or boundaries.
No, I mean, I wouldn't just go like, oh, you're wrong, like that's wrong to believe in it. 'Cause I mean, again, it doesn't really bother me what you want to think about your height or anything.
So I can be a Chinese woman.
You sure.
But I can't be a 6'5" Chinese woman.
Yes.
If you thoroughly debated me or explained why you felt that you were 6'5", I feel like I would be very open to saying that you were 6'5", or Chinese, or a woman.
Wow. 7 years ago, guys. 7 years ago, and this is still so relevant to 2023. Isn't that scary? How, like, delusional these college kids were and probably still are when it comes to these questions and what they're answering. That one girl who was so afraid.
Women are not women. Trans women are trans women. Period. Now, of course, that's going to ruffle some feathers, but let me go ahead and speak on it a little more. It's nowadays people don't want to be identified as trans anything. They want to be called either man or woman. There's no in between. There's no trans. There's none of that. And we'll get into pronouns and all of that in just a minute, but I just don't understand why we're taking the trans part out, because that is what they are, and that's okay. But why they're taking that part out, I don't know. For a long time, trans women were not accepted anywhere. Like, they weren't accepted back in the day. They were beat up. They were made fun of. They were called slurs. They were called drag queens and all of this kind of stuff. Now, in more recent times, we have embraced them. We have accepted them into our friend groups, our families, our workplace. We have accepted them for who they are, and we have not tried to change them. Now, granted, that's not everybody's opinion, and you know, some people are still kind of iffy about it, but me personally, I accept them for who they are. I don't have any type of biblical or religious standpoint on what they should be or who they shouldn't be or why they shouldn't be and all of this stuff, type of stuff. Honestly, I do not care what a trans person do with their life at all, because you know why? It doesn't affect my life. But me as a woman, I feel like it's time for me to speak up, because I feel like some boundaries are being crossed when it comes to womanhood. Like I said, we have accepted trans women especially, and it feels like they are trying to come into woman spaces and change what it is to be a woman. You're coming into woman spaces and trying to change what it is to be a woman to make yourself feel comfortable, but leaving us feeling a little unsure of our own identity sometimes. Now, I see that a lot of times when people talk about womanhood or they're trying to come in and change womanhood, the next question that the trans woman may ask is, what do you identify as a woman? Or what do you consider womanhood? It's pretty fucking obvious what you would consider womanhood, you know, having kids, having a period, being hormonal, having an X chromosome, you know, the typical shit that we all have, you know what I mean, as a woman. I didn't think that was like debatable, but it is apparently nowadays. And when women have that argument of, it's because I can have periods and get pregnant, they're like, oh, well, you're just basing it around genitalia and stuff like that. Not all women can have periods and not all women can have kids and get pregnant and stuff. Does that still make them a man or something? It's like, no, what? The fact that trans women can look a biological woman in their face and ask that question is insane to me. Just saying this out loud just makes me feel like I have to now explain to an alien from outer space the difference between a man and woman is. It's crazy. There's reasons why some women cannot have a period or cannot have a pregnancy. And those reasons are usually a medical condition. It can be PCOS. It can be endometriosis. It could be freaking menopause. It could be anything. But it's the fact that you guys are trying to compare those reasons to having a dick. Like, it's not calculating up here. Like, how can you even ask that question or saying that, oh, well, not every woman can have a period or not every woman can get pregnant, so that makes me a woman. No, it doesn't. It means that woman has issues that limits her from having the womanly things in her life, and you have a dick. Like, I don't I can't fucking do this anymore. Trans women are also saying that we shouldn't boil things down to just genitalia, because having a vagina does not make you a woman. Then what the fuck does? We are supposed to soak up in this delusion with them, and it's not cool. Not cool, bro. Let me just go ahead and say that I respect people pronoun, because at the end of the day, trans people are still human beings who have thoughts, feelings, and emotions like the rest of us. You see how I just said how I respect their pronouns based on their identity and how they want to be identified and what they ask of me? I wish it was the same thing vice versa. Like, we don't want to be, I at least don't want to be called cisgendered or whatever the case is, or a birthing person, or a pregnant person, or a chest feeder, or whatever the new term is that is gender neutral. I don't want to be called those things. Imagine literally pushing a whole nother human being out of your vagina and someone looking at you and saying, damn, what a wonderful birthing person. Yeah, I'm not feeling those terms at all. And no one is making us use those terms, but it's just, what the fuck? Like, come on, bro. Like, everything shouldn't be gender neutral. Like, words that are meant for women should not be gender neutral. It's meant for a woman. But again, we've got to make them feel comfortable while we feel uncomfortable, or while we feel disrespected. But as long as trans women feel comfortable with the pronouns that we give them and whatever, like, who gives a fuck what we feel as women? Who gives a fuck? You know, nobody cares. Let's move on to this whole bathroom debate that has been going on for far too long at this point. Like, it has been years and we're still talking about this. Me personally, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that when I walk into the bathroom, I am beelining straight to the stall, because I'm either held my pee for way too long or I've got to shit. One of the two. Like, I'm not worried about who's in the bathroom with me. I'm in there to do my business and leave. Like, I'm not looking around to see who's man, who's woman, who's trans, who's this, who's that. Like, I do not care. But there are women who do care, who do worry about their safety in the bathroom. I mean, that was the whole point of doing a man in a woman's bathroom in the first place. Now anybody can identify as a woman and walk into the women's bathroom and assault a woman, assault a child, or whatever the case may be. And this isn't to say that anybody who's trans is a pedophile or a rapist at all. Like, no, they aren't. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, it's making it more risky. But, you know, some of the laws have already passed in some places, so me saying this isn't really going to change shit. And again, this is just another example of us making trans women feel comfortable and just fuck what women feel, okay? Just fuck what we feel. Take a shot every time I say fuck. You'll probably end up with alcohol poisoning today.
2 shots of vodka.
And it's like, you're called a conservative when you don't agree that we should just use our birth assigned gender to a bathroom. Let's talk about trans women in sports. Now, this one is the one that actually gets me kind of frustrated. Why was this a conversation that was had and someone was like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, let them do it. That's fine. That's totally fine.
Again, we work very hard for the little opportunity there is in the space because we're not as entertaining as the men. Sorry, we're just not. And so it's like, you're gonna take the little opportunity that we're given. And the problem is, like, we can't compete. We can't. Like, I'm 6 foot. If I go up against a 6 foot guy and I play basketball with him, he's gonna body me.
So this is basically a joke of a talking point. Everyone has biological advantages in sport. I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely crush
bone
me.
density, wrist strength, muscle density, you can't switch those.
Imagine working for years on your craft or your sport as a woman athlete. You've worked your ass off to get where you are now. To have a trans woman come in who was failing on their team, on the men's team, come into the women's team and beat you like hell. How is that okay? How is this even fine? This has got to stop. Like, this has gone way too far. And now I'm starting to think, like, where do we draw the line with all of this trans women stuff? Like, where do we draw the line? Because I feel like boundaries have been crossed time and time and time and time again. And we have done nothing but sit back and be quiet because we're too scared to be labeled as homophobic, transphobic, a bigot, prejudice, all the things but a child of God. It's really just baffling. I don't really even have much more to say on that because it's just wrong. I'm sorry, this is just wrong. So let's move on. I'm gonna go ahead and put a TikTok in real quick and let y'all see this.
Why can I choose my pronouns, but you can't choose not to be called cis? For the same reason white people can't use the N-word. You can. you'll just be called a racist for being a racist. Those are called consequences. Cis is not an identity, it's a descriptor, it's an adjective, just like transphobic or racist. And look, you cannot identify as racist if you want, but that doesn't mean that black people aren't going to call you racist if you're white and use the N-word. And you cannot identify as transphobic if you want, but if you reject the term cis as a cis person like this, trans people are going to call you transphobic.
Why did he do that? Like, why do they just compare transgender words to the N-word? That is not comparable. What I am gonna say is leave black people out of the conversation. Okay, we don't do shit as it is. Can you just leave us out of the conversation? Don't compare your issues to our issues, because it ain't the same. People were outraged by this, and rightfully so, because they had a transgendered woman on the cover of a Bud Light can. And you remember that time when Caitlyn Jenner got Woman of the Year award? Like, for what? I don't want to sound negative, like they don't deserve awards and stuff, but I'm not really understanding what they're being awarded for.
Let me just get this straight. In the last few years, a biological male has been named Woman of the Year on several magazine covers. A biological male is referenced as a top-ranking female in our White House. A biological male was named the NCAA Women's Swimmer of the Year. A biological male is making tens of thousands of dollars being the face of womanhood for Nike, for Tampax, for Bud Light, for Kate Spade, and countless other companies. A biological male took home the award for Best Actress at the Golden Globes. Are we really still trying to make the case that feminism supports women when the feminists are completely silent and or cheering on biological men taking over the space of women?
I also been seeing a lot of TikToks where guys are being a woman for a day, or they're day 1 of being a woman, or day 25 of being a woman. And I think that, it's, cool content. It doesn't affect me at all, but it's just kind of like mockery almost sometimes. Like getting tampons and, oh my God, this is what you put in your vagina. Yes, that is what we put in our vagina every month. Women are women. We are not some type of artifact or something. Tampons aren't some type of mystery artifact. We use them every month. We've been using them every month since we hit puberty in our young teenage years. Now, I know every trans woman do not think like this or believe in all of this stuff that is happening nowadays. And I just want to say that I appreciate you, and I appreciate you speaking up when necessary and whatnot. I don't feel like this is ever going to end. But I will say that I feel like we should be able to draw the line and be able to speak up more and stop being afraid of being labeled as transphobic, homophobic, and all the things that aren't good.
Trans women are women. What are your thoughts?
Trans women are trans women. That's not said disrespectfully, because my era, we were transvestites, drag queens, you're a man in a dress. We fought to have the title of trans women. Respectfully, trans men are trans men. That is not even a disrespect. It's this younger, new generation, Z crazy, that it's not enough for. But let me just break something down to y'all real simple. If a woman is a social construct and we're emulating women, what would that make us? Social construction workers? To be truthful. And if biological women stop having sex, if biological women stop having babies, it won't be no more black, white, LGBT, fat, funny looking, and nothing else. I know y'all ain't gonna like the way I put it to you in the box, but when you find the lie, stop me. Because I have relationships with trans men that they identify as men, but they're biologically women. They think that, oh, Flame, you just pandering for the women. No, I know what a woman is. Woman is Mother Earth. We all came through the birth canal of a woman. All female impersonators, transgender, sex change, whatever. You did not learn how to be a female or act like a female watching somebody like you in a suit and tie.
That's a fact.
You learn from the woman that raised you, whether it be your mother, your auntie, your stepmother, whomever. But then when I get so comfortable in my gay or my transgender or whatever I decide to become, whatever's instilled in me, I'm better than you? No, I'm not better than you. You're still my sister. Wow. But I'm better than you now. That is the problem. We keep trying to dismiss women. You cannot dismiss a woman.